Pretoria, they were picking another fight, throwing stones at Washington on the evening news each night. They mocked the orange man from podiums and floors, didn't know they'd push him till he opened up the door. Now there's suitcases lined up from Durban to the Cape, families making plans that they swore they'd never make. 10,000 more leaving, saying we can't do this anymore. Funny how the backlash came when Trump opened the door. Trump opened the door, swung that old barn wide. Now the planes keep lifting off on another midnight ride. Human capital's fleeing, tax base receding, the GNU's bleeding right down to the core. What's Solomola gonna tell the people next? Can Cyril blame Afrikaners for another train wreck? And Fikele keeps talking like he's settling a score, while the whole damn country's changing, 'cause Trump opened the door. They sold the rainbow dream like salvation on TV, but too many graves are dug beside the poverty. Gangsters run the corners, corruption fills the halls, and state neglect keeps echoing through abandoned factory walls. Cyril says don't worry now, tomorrow's looking bright, but candles still replace the power nearly every night. No white men in management, they brag from marble floors, but black poverty ain't shrinking like they promised years before. Trump opened the door, swung that old barn wide. Now the farmers and the teachers all got one foot outside. Human capital's fleeing, tax base receding, the GNU's bleeding right down to the core. What's Solomola gonna tell the people next? Can Cyril blame Afrikaners for another train wreck? And Fikele keeps counting ghosts nobody's looking for, while the future packs its bags, 'cause Trump opened the door. How much can the gangsters in Parliament steal? How many fake fortunes dressed up as the real? How many young people gotta lose all hope before the whole damn nation runs clean out of rope? Mama says the country used to feel alive, now every goodbye cuts like a knife. One more family headed somewhere north, one more flag folded up on the porch. Trump opened the door and the flood came through, for the tired and forgotten who just needed something new. South Africans fleeing, the ANC reeling, things going from bad to worse way down south. The Rainbow Nation promise faded into pain, too many mothers crying in the pouring rain. What comes next? Lord, nobody's sure, but history took a hard left turn the day Trump opened the door. Yeah, history took a hard left turn the day Trump opened the door.
Marvin Divine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can
Wednesday, May 20th, 2025. How did Pikachu get up there? What are you doing up there, man? You're not here for the news. He's for night owls. Pikachu is doing extra duty today. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. Back to the program. All right, just checking the audio, and it's good because, you know, the software gets updated all the time, and it plays nasty with me. Well, first off, before we launch into the news, it's time now for an episode of the Wyatt Court. Hear ye, all rise. The Honorable Chris Wyatt. Now, the court is in session. The accused, you stand here before me of racial persecution, 145 race-based laws which have enriched no one except a small coterie of cadres related to the African National Congress. You stand here accused of failed infrastructure, of the worst performing ports on the planet, of a military that can't fight its way out of a wet paper bag because of underfunding and inept leadership. You stand here accused of allowing a gangster state to run the construction industry, the taxi industry. You stand here accused of pervasive pilfering. You stand here accused of pala money laundering. You stand here accused of Nkanla, personal enrichment of state funds to build a retirement home. You stand here accused of digital vibes and getting discounted breaks for family members. You stand here accused of the Vreda dairy farm scandal. You stand here accused of the asbestos tender. You stand here accused of Armsgate, Oilgate, Travelgate, and any other gate that we haven't heard about. You stand here accused of billions and billions and billions of PPE theft. You stand here accused of race hustling. You stand here accused of lying to the world. You stand here accused of so many things. What do you say in your defense? Historically disadvantaged peoples. Summary judgment. Guilty. 10,000 more. We find the African National Congress and its cohorts in the government of national unity responsible for this abysmal situation in South Africa, guilty of crimes against humanity, crimes against, well, good order and law and order. You can't blame Jan van Riebeck. You can't blame apartheid. You can't blame Donald Trump. You made this bed. You lie in it. Put on some nappies. That way you want to piss all over your bed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to today's program. It's the 20th of May, 2026. Now we've had a summary judgment against the ANC and the government of national unity. We'll move on. All right, news. Well, first off, what did I tell you last August, September, when we finally got the information that the Trump administration was putting a cap on the refugee program of $7,500 for fiscal year 2026, which by now most of my South African audience who watch this program should be well aware that a fiscal year runs from 1 October to 30 September for the federal government of the United States. So 7,000 of that was reserved for South Africans. I told you, tracking the monthly statistics, that at the end of April, 6,066 South Africans had arrived here, which meant that just 944 slots remain if the cap were to be in effect. Last September, I told you not to worry about the cap, primarily because you have no control over it. There's nothing you can do to change it. So worrying about it isn't going to do anything. Simply put your application in, go about your life as I advised. Don't quit your jobs. Don't take your kids out of school. Don't sell your property unless you got a great offer and you can live off the proceeds in the meantime. So, what has happened? A month ago, Reuters reported that the Trump administration was looking at increasing that cap by another 12,000. Or, another 10,000, which would take it, another 10,000, which would take it 17,500. The 12,000 came because we hadn't had the full quota met yet. Then the New York Times ran a report saying that the Trump administration would take unusual measures to go around it. I've told you from the outset that if the Trump administration is serious about this program, they will find a way to do what they want to do and get who they want over here. Simple as that. Now, a lot of people are blanching at the fact that it's going to cost us $100 million to bring 10,000 South Africans. Really? So at that rate, if it costs us $100 million for 10,000 South Africans, okay, so 10 times that, 100,000 South Africans means it would cost, if we did that, if that rate, just if all things being equal, that would be $1 billion, $1 billion. Yet in a normal year, we give these agencies $12 billion in refugees. So it's a fraction of what we're paying normally. So keep that in mind. So that $100 million is a bargain. not out of my checkbook, but it's a bargain. Thank you, student, for the 50 or 70 Rand super sticker. So that's a bargain. 100 million to bring an additional 10,000 South Africans here by 30 September. So let's move on to the news about that specifically. Trump moves to admit, and once again, the media are lying to you. Lying, once again, running with this racial canard divide America. By the way, I had a conversation yesterday with someone about South Africans coming over. And the question came up, and I was talking about having my coverage of it. And the person said, well, what makes a South African special? I said, they're not special. Then why are they getting special treatment? I said, what special treatment? Well, they're allowed to come and no one else is. I said, that's because the program was rife with fraud. These people were being vetted properly. Yeah, but what makes them special? I said, nothing makes a South African special. But the question I didn't ask back, because it was clear that this person who's left of center was going to lose their mind, is this question. What made Ukrainians special? What makes Congolese more special than South Africans suffering from persecution? For years, South Africans were denied access to the refugee program. No one even considered it. So let's go back to 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the way up until today. No one granted refugee access to South Africans who were desperately in need of it. But we gave it to Congolese. What made them more special than South Africans? Nothing. Nothing. Nobody's more special than anybody else. That was my point. But people left of center can't be objective. They cannot be objective. They get lost in themselves. Being a Christian doesn't make you special. Christian faith is full of all kinds of atrocities, just like every other faith. Trump moves to admit 10,000 more white South Africans as refugees. The Trump administration argues that an emergency refugee situation merits bringing more Afrikaners to America at a cost of some 100 million. Yeah, okay. Except it's not Afrikaners, it's South Africans. Once again, idiots. Idiots, idiots. The headline. I don't know what's going on here. I know the journalist, so I'm not sure he even wrote the headline. 10,000 more white South Africans. It's not 10,000 more white South Africans. It's, you want to say predominantly white South Africans, you can say that. But it's not white South Africans. It's predominantly. Start telling the truth, media. U.S. plans to take in 10,000 more Afrikaner asylum seekers. Okay, first off, they're not asylum seekers, MC Ferreira. Incorrect. That's false. That's not what they are. They're not asylum seekers, and it's not 10,000 more Afrikaners. That's utter nonsense. These people are lazy journalists. They can't be bothered to look up the facts. Okay, now they tell the truth down here. The earlier threshold was set in October 25, gave priority to South African minorities, cast by Washington as suffering violent state-sanctioned persecution at home. Policy shift saw some settlement denied to refugees from some of the world's most war-torn nations. There's a couple problems with that statement. That's a lie. This policy had nothing to do with other people not coming here. Trump suspended a refugee program before the the South Africans were allowed to come over. He did that in January. This wasn't until February 7th. The two are not related. See, that's a lie. So what they're trying to do is create racial tension between whites and others by claiming that white South Africans come over, and that's because they canceled everybody else so the whites can come over. That's a fairy tale. That's a lie. They neglect to mention 300,000 blonde, blue-eyed Christians from the Ukraine who came over here in a 3-year period. Funny how they mention that. Funny how they mention that. Or don't mention that, excuse me. Don't mention that. Yeah, so once again, this is just propaganda. I'm sorry. MC Ferreira, you need to learn how to do research, my friend. This isn't journalism. This is propaganda. It's yellow journalism. It's fake news. It's fake news, fake news, fake news. The earlier threshold was set in October 2025 and gave priority to South African minorities, cast by Washington suffering from violent state-sanctioned prosecution. No, we're not talking about prosecution. The word is persecution. Again, why is it that South Africans cannot understand the difference between persecution and prosecution? There are two different things. Prosecution is for a crime. Persecution is abuse. The policy shift saw settlement denied refugees from some of the world's most war-torn nations. That's factually incorrect. The refugee program was canceled in January of 2025. February 7th, this program was launched. One has nothing to do with the other. Wow. At least they get this part right, but only because I've been reporting on it over and over and over again. According to State Department report on the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program, admissions arrivals between October last year and 30 April totaled 6,069. Apart from 3 refugees from Afghanistan, the remainder of those who arrived in the U.S. under the program are listed as being from South Africa. That's correct, and I've been telling you that since November. So I don't know where they're, yeah. Cool Beans, your statement is accurate, but that doesn't apply to everybody. Not everybody's being prosecuted. So this is fake news. Now they go back to a comment by Crispin Puri in February. The assertion that white Afrikaners in particular endure systemic persecution is entirely without foundation. This truth is only further corroborated by the individuals who, having availed themselves of this preferential policy, have since resolved to return home. First off, refugee program is not a preferential policy. So he's full of crap. Second, who's returned home? When he said this in February, nobody had returned home. A total crock. Because he's a dimwit. Another idiot in the administration of South Africa that's too stupid to know the facts. Once again, conflating people going home for Christmas holidays to visit family in South Africa and the 12,000 South Africans who were unconstitutionally stripped of their citizenship by a corrupt, venal, thieving African National Congress in violation of South Africa's constitution, who now can restore their citizenship. The 12,000 who asked about that aren't refugees. Just like the American who murdered his South African wife in Virginia last year wasn't a refugee. Just like they're not all white, and they're certainly not all Afrikaners. They sure as hell aren't our farmers. More lies, more yellow journalism. Utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. This is why this channel is shadow banned. Because what I tell you are facts. Refute my facts. Prove to me that all these people are Afrikaners. Prove to me that they're not black. Prove to me that they're not colored. Prove to me that no Indians have come over. Prove to me that there aren't 145 race-based laws. You can't. Because these are facts. And if that hurts your biased, unobjective view, then you are the fraud, not me. Simple as that. Simple as that. Yeah, Church World Service. Well, Church World Service has a conflict of interest and should not be involved in this program. They're suing the Trump administration. They have no basis to be involved in this program. There's a clear conflict of interest here. Also, the nasty statements they've made about Trump and about this government, they have no business having a contract whatsoever. Herr Kloppe, thank you for the 70 Rand. Hermanus, we find you guilty, Mr. Amasofi. Yes, I agree. Yep, thank you. Thank you all for the super chats and super stickers. Westhouse, yep. And then, who was that? Is it Arila Rabbi? Sorry. Thank you for the 140 Rand. I can't see your full name. It's hard to see it. Yeah, this is nonsense. The truth is only further corroborated by individuals who, having availed themselves of preferential policy, have since resolved to return home. Who? Who, Chris Perry? Name them. Give us the names. I can give you the name. I'm not going to. Give you the name of refugees who have gone back. Four. And none went back before February, to our knowledge. And he said this in February. But of course, he is reading the fake news media reports in News 24, Cockprot 24, the Daily Shipper, Daily Maverick, and of course, the toilet paper record, the Independent Line, that are making statements claiming that South African refugees have gone home. That's poppycock. That's utter poppycock. And they're basing that on the 12,000 people who had their citizenship stripped from them unconstitutionally, and it's now they can restore it, and on those who go home for the holidays. Utter nonsense. The two have nothing to do with each other. Diplomatic tension around the refugee program arose in December when South Africa expelled 7 Kenyan nationals working for an intermediary organization processing so-called Afrikaner refugee asylum seekers. They were deported for doing paid work while in the country on 9-day tourist visas. Okay, what that story doesn't tell you is the truth. See, there's context missing from there, all right? So this is a problem, MC. Once again, not journalism, not serious journalism. The facts of the matter are the following. Number one, they're not asylum seekers, and they're not so-called. That is an opinion, and an opinion is like your bum. You have one. We don't want to hear your opinion. You're reporting the news. People want to hear my opinion because it's analysis based on facts, and that's what this program is, breaking down the news and reporting on breaking stories. You are expressing an opinion. So-called refugees. There's no so-called. They're so-called, and they're not asylum seekers. Crack a dictionary and learn how U.S. law works. Read the words. Asylum and refugee are not the same. And the Kenyans were there working on 9-day tourist visas. Correct, but only part of the information. They came there and applied for work permits after they arrived legally in the country. After a period of weeks, they were denied. They appealed it. The denial was sent to the Kenyans in South Africa. The appeal was later denied, just before the December 16th raid on Woodmead. When the appeal was denied, the press themselves admit that the letter of denial saying they had to leave the country, we're not going to let you work here, was sent to the South African High Commission in Kenya. Well, the Kenyans aren't in Kenya. They're in South Africa. Why would you send it to the High Commission anyway? If you're going to send it to Kenya, mail it to the recipients. They did that to intentionally create a situation which gave them a fake justification to raid Woodmead. That's what they did. That lacks context. They applied for a work visa, and they're allowed to work while they're waiting for that. They applied for it and appealed it, and then the appeal was sent in a place that would not be notified, so a raid could be done. Had they informed the U.S. Embassy U.S. Embassy would have ensured the Kenyans left. Now, here's the other piece of context that's missing from this propaganda story. You ready for this? We've interviewed an American citizen who was an employee of RSC in Nairobi, who was sent from Nairobi and deployed to South Africa a few years ago and granted a work visa to work there to process refugees by the government of South Africa. By the government of South Africa. The same government that now denies it. So when the South African government lies and says we're not frustrating this program, they are lying. They allowed people from RSC, including Kenyans, to go to South Africa in the past and work there to process refugees because they don't want Somalis and Congolese in their country. They want them out. So they're happy if America takes the problem off their hand. But they don't want South Africans to leave. They want to persecute them and watch them die in agony. That's what they want. Who said I'm in a bad mood? A bad mood? Pfft. People clearly don't know who the hell I am. Yep. Utter nonsense. No context here. This is propaganda. Not news. Propaganda. If you'd like to see the story, I'll put it on the screen again. This is propaganda, not news. U.S. plans to take in 10,000 more Afrikaner asylum seekers. Nope. Utter nonsense. Trump plans to admit 10,000 more white South Africans into the U.S. Again, propaganda. U.S. President Donald Trump is moving to admit 10,000 additional white South Africans. Lies, under special refugee program. It's not special. It's just a renewal of the refugee program for those who are designated refugees. According to documents obtained by the New York Times, Trump administration proposed increasing U.S. refugee admissions cap from 7,500 to 17,500, with the extra slots largely reserved for Afrikaners, a white minority group in South Africa, mainly descended from Dutch settlers. Once again, Dutch admixture of the Afrikaner is the second highest, not the highest. German is the highest. Oh, boy. Unbelievable. The Associated Press, the Trump administration plans to admit more white South Africans refugees this year. Once again, Sung Min Kim. Notice the trend of all these people who are writing these stories. Except for Ferreira. They all are so-called people of color with obvious axe to grind against white majority Americans to tell their lies. Trump administration plans to admit up to 10,000 more white South African refugees in the United States in the coming months, arguing that their status as Afrikaners has left them open to discrimination and persecution at home. Well, the South African falsely reported that Wade is an Afrikaner and his wife and their baby is an Afrikaner born in America. They're not Afrikaners. They're white South Africans, but not Afrikaners. The Stoltz daughters are not white. They're Venda. The Smith's daughters, not white. I think they're Kossam. I can't remember exactly. The folks I interviewed in South Dakota, not white, colored. The Indians I've interviewed in New Mexico, Indian, not white. Lies, more lies, and more lies. Here's another one. Of course, CNN, where else? Trump administration proposes admitting more white South Africans. No, it doesn't. Priscilla Alvarez. another lady of color. All people of color. Where do all these people of color, how come they're the only journalists in the media anymore? Where is the 75% of the population that's not people of color? Why aren't they in journalism? Why don't they have it? Not even leftists. You don't even see leftists there anymore. All people hating. All people of color. Every one of these. Alvarez. Min Kim. Ayode Adegobeya. Ridiculous. Rachel Savage. Well, that sounds like an Anglophone name. Rachel Savage. The Guardian. U.S. claims emergency refugee situation as it admits 10,000 more white South Africans. They're not white South Africans. Again, not white South. Predominantly white, yes, but not white South Africans. Once again, nothing but more lies. More lies. You cannot come here as a refugee without a passport because your government won't let you leave South Africa. We have no control over that. How many millions of times do I have to say that? Millions of times. If you don't have a passport, you can't come here because your government won't let you leave the country. We have no control over that. We are not Home Affairs. We don't control South African borders. South Africa does. It's a sovereign state. Why would somebody, I don't understand that question. If you're a refugee who fled from Somalia in a war and wound up in Kenya and have no documents, then we'll issue a travel document and the Kenyans will accept it. But the South African government is not going to do it. You're right, Heidi. Every one of those stories says exactly the same thing. They're just plagiarists, all of them. Only the New York Times wrote the story. Well, hold on a second here. So, South Africa, it's time for Wyatt Court of Justice to assemble once again. Hear ye, all be seated. South Africa has accused the United States of arbitrarily unfair tariffs against the country, despite the fact that they historically proposed 75% tariffs against our poultry. They ban all our pork products. They have limited our import or exports of automobiles to South Africa with quotas and other standards and artificial barriers that prevent us from entering the market. Despite that, and us having given South African duty-free access to our marketplace for 2.5 decades, they accused the Trump administration and the United States of being ridiculous with their tariffs and being unfair. But here they come again. We believe in the multilateral community, says the South African government. But they don't. They don't. Like every other nation, they act in their own interest. Unfortunately, they don't act in the interest of South Africans. They act in the interest of the African National Congress. And here we are again. Yeah. Trump can't have tariffs, but South Africa can. South Africa steel tariffs to reshape trade ties with China. ITEC steps in to shield the embattled industry from the flood of cheap, often heavily subsidized imports. South Africa's imposed the steepest and broadest steel tariffs and the biggest protections move in 2 decades to shield the local industry from cheap imports. Whoa, wait a second. I'm confused. I'm so confused. I thought Trump was evil for having tariffs, but South Africa has just placed the heaviest tariffs on steel in 2 decades. Wow. On 67 billion rand worth of imports. $3.5 billion of steel imports. 20% duties on spades. Not just on steel, but on spades. On shovels, timber wedges, hand saws, knives, cutting blades, rods and tubes. And they were free of tariffs. But South Africa, it's okay for them to impose tariffs. But when Trump does it, it's unfair. Even though Trump does it in response to the abuse that the United States has received from the African National Congress. Where is the Minister of No Trade? Where is he at? Anybody know? Parks Tao? You know where he went? Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's go back. Let's talk about Cyril Ramaphosa here. Yes, remember Cyril? I will abide by the court. I will follow the legal process. We will have our day in court. We will have our day in court. Huh? Ramaphosa says the following. He's not going to have his day in court. The Stalingrad defense is in effect for Cyril or Ramaphosa. The Ramaphosa has his Stalingrad defense prepared. He doesn't care about the rule of law. He is not going to adhere to this. He is going to protect himself until he's out of office. Ramaphosa asked Chief Justice Mandisa Maya for permission to review the Phala Phala report. The independent panel report was headed by former Chief Justice Sandile Gobo. The request was a procedural step the president took before instituting civil proceedings against the panel's report because it was headed by a judge. The judge found there's prima facie evidence for the president to answer for these crimes. Section 47 of the Superior Courts Act requires litigants in civil proceedings to seek permission from a head of court before instituting litigation against the judge. So he wants to sue the judge over his money laundering allegations. Oh, but Ramaphosa is just going to adhere to the law. What a crock that was. Stop calling me. Damn it, stop calling me. Why are you calling me? No, not me. Not me. Gate McKenzie. Ladies and gentlemen, the Patriotic Alliance is thrown in this lot with the money laundering accused, perversion of justice accused, torture accused, Cyril Ramaphosa. Gate McKenzie will protect his best bud, Cyril Ramaphosa. Birds of a feather flock together. Stop calling me, McKenzie tells parties as the PA stands firm against Ramaphosa impeachment. Look at him fawning eyes up there, looking at his big boss. Hello, boss man. Boss. Hey, boss. Patriotic Alliance President Gate McKenzie rejected calls to support President Ramaphosa's impeachment, citing nation-building efforts and constitutional respect. Constitutional respect? Constitutional respect? I'm sorry, Gate McKenzie, are you serious? Ladies and gentlemen, when people zol, they roll the zol. And then they put the saliva on the zol. And then people, they share that zol. Gate McKenzie, are you serious? Constitutional respect? A man credibly accused of money laundering. A man credibly accused of perversion of the means of justice. A man credibly accused of torture. Sitting as president. And you're talking about constitutional respect? If the man respected the Constitution, he would resign. He would resign. McKenzie clarified his party stance, stating that it would vote against impeachment, criticize misinterpretations of the Constitutional Court's judgment. There's no misinterpretation. No. There's no misinterpretation. The court told Parliament to proceed. Where are you confused? Okay, I'm going to interrupt my conversation here for a second. What is your issue, Carl? Why haven't I reported the Kenyan protests? What are you talking about? Did you miss the fact that I was gone for 18 hours yesterday as judge of elections and got home late? And this is my first news broadcast since these protests took place? Why haven't I talked about it? We're talking about South Africa. Wait your turn. You want to talk about Kenya? It's coming. Dude, that's just so... What are you talking about? Unbelievable. South Africa pledges $2.5 million of money it doesn't have to fight Ebola in the DRC and Uganda. Children are starving in South Africa, but the South African government is now pledging $2.5 million to support efforts by the African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to combat the Ebola outbreak in the DRC. At a time when the continent faces increasing public health threats with significant risk of cross-border transmission, South Africa's contribution sends a strong message and a reassuring message that Africa stands united in protecting the lives and well-being of its people. Except it doesn't. It doesn't stand united. The vaccines developed for Ebola were developed by the Americans. The fight against Ebola has been funded by the Americans and Europeans to a lesser degree. Unbelievable. Jacob Zuma doubles down on Ndela, suspends his party membership amid internal probe. Wow. Having already been stripped of his party roles over a statement that misrepresented the MK Institute's powers, Lamulo Ndela's membership has been suspended pending the outcome of a probe. And once again, the MK party proves it's not a political party. It's a vanity project. Run afoul of Jacob Zuma. Don't pay him your bribe money from your salary, and you will be kicked out of the party. This is not a political party. It's a vanity project. Much worse a vanity project than even the EFF under Julius Malema. South African Revenue Service now announces that vehicles coming into the country must register for tax purposes. Excuse me? You want to talk about destroying tourism? From June 1st, the South African Revenue Service will require all foreign registered vehicles to be declared to SARS travel management system prior to entering or leaving South Africa. The Revenue Service said this new measure aligns with international customs practices and will strengthen compliance and protect South Africa's ports entry. No, it does not. No, it does not. It does not. Cars from Canada don't have to register with tax purposes to come to America, and American cars sure as hell don't register for tax purposes to go into Canada. And the same thing with Mexico and the U.S. Nobody in China, in Germany, is required to file a tax receipt to go to the Netherlands in their car or France. They're just liars. Liars. This is not an international standard. This is an effort to steal money from people coming into the country. Why in the world are you required to register? It's one thing to give your plate to immigration so that they know about your vehicle being in the country. It's quite another to have to register with the South African Revenue Service for taxation purposes. They have no right to tax your car. If they want to apply a road tax, it's not them. It's the roads ministry. It's not SARS. Utter nonsense. Steal, steal, steal. So people coming from Botswana in particular, which is one of the highest travel points, and then the bike bridge from Zimbabwe, will now be forced to register their automobiles. And you think it's just cars imported. No, it's foreign registered cars. Cars imported aren't registered. They belong to the manufacturers and transporters. These are cars that are registered legally to people in other countries who travel to South Africa. And now the South African government wants to steal from them. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Frequent cross-border travel for work, study, business, medical care, other lawful reasons does not affect the validity of the permit, provided it remains in force as renewed before it expires. So why are you creating permit? I mean, this is a government that can't process birth certificates or passports in a timely fashion. This is a government that can't fix potholes. And now they have the resources to create this SARS requirement for foreign nationals to register their cars for tax purposes when they arrive in South Africa. Screw them. Utterly screw them. What is going on over here? I'm about to give a couple people a timeout. About to give someone a timeout here. Just going back to make sure it's warranted. All right, well, you're all on notice. You know who you are. All right, attention seekers. Urgent intervention needed as tensions rise against illegal immigrants in Durban. Wow, suddenly we care about xenophobia. A growing humanitarian and security crisis unfolding in Durban, according to human rights organizations who say refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants have reportedly been forced to flee their homes amid rising threats, intimidation, and violent incidents. Wow. The situation prompted urgent intervention calls from both the South African Human Rights Commission and the Kopanang Africa Against Xenophobia, CAX, as it fears further escalation. Well, it will escalate because the government is doing nothing to stop it. It's just a bumper sticker. Israeli forces apprehended former South African ambassador who's part of an attention-seeking flotilla. Israeli forces intercepted and detained South African humanitarian ambassador Faisal Musa while he was aboard the global Sumid flotilla attempting to deliver aid to Gaza. Illegally, the flotilla was carrying humanitarian supplies aimed to raise awareness about the humanitarian crisis and blockade affecting civilians in Gaza. The family say they're deeply concerned about his health because he's a diabetic and dependent on chronic medication. Well, then perhaps he shouldn't be traipsed around the world interfering in the politics of other countries like this with this flotilla. Members of Parliament call for more funding for the South African National Defence Force as atrophy compromised national security. Fat cat lifestyles of generals highlighted while soldiers lack proper equipment. I've covered the story many, many times. And there's your minister of 15%. No longer 30%. She's halved her intelligence quotient to just 15%. This, they said, has MPs from across political spectrum, including the ANC, lamented the chronic underfunding of the South African National Defence Force during budget debate. But the problem is that that's the people who've denied the money. The ANC has intentionally starved the South African National Defence Force and turned it into a joke. Well, here's some good news. If you want to go to Zanzibar, just make sure you don't get acid thrown in your face, like poor English tourist. Cape Town gets a direct flight to Zanzibar. And here's what it will cost to skip Joburg. Airlink is launching Cape Town's first direct flights to Zanzibar in October. It'll give travelers a new way to reach the island without connecting through Johannesburg or East African hubs like Nairobi. The once-a-week Saturday service is aimed at holidaymakers with timing that makes Zanzibar an easier week-long break from Cape Town. From October, Airlink will launch direct flights. The new service opens a simpler route. Airline industry convenience comes at a cost. Yeah, so what's it going to cost? Departures key. Flights to East Africa are notorious for takeoffs or landings at the most inconvenient times. Exactly. You'll leave Cape Town around breakfast and arrive at check-in time in the afternoon. Well, that's pretty good. So what's it going to cost? $12,000 for a return trip. There you go. Interesting. So if you want to go to Zanzibar, you have a new option available to you from South Africa. A man who lost his legs in a horrific traffic accident has bucked up and moved on. Congratulations to him. Inspirational. A truck took his Northwest farmer's legs. His goats gave him reason to get back up. Northwest farmer Realabora Mangwapare lost both legs in a 2021 truck accident, but he never gave up his dreams of raising goats. Starting with just 2 animals in his backyard, he's built a herd of 74 boer goats, and Dorper sheep, with his sights set on 500 and a farm to call his own. Farming has been his dream since he helped the elderly herd livestock back in town. 74 boer goats. Well, congratulations. The double amputee and livestock farmer is just his opening act. Now farming 74 boer goats and Dorper sheep from his backyard, his sights are firmly set on raising 500 animals. And he says, goats are a wonderful option. My only focus is to ensure this business grows. This will be my legacy, something my children can continue and build upon. He's dealt with livestock theft, financial constraints, and the truck accident that cost both of his legs. And here he is with his goats. Well, he's got a personal relationship with them because he's pretty much lower because he lost the legs. He said, dreams can be interrupted by accidents or changes in how people treat us. Even families sometimes doubt us. I want people with disabilities to take action and show their abilities. Well said. Goat protein is among the most widely consumed meats on the planet, eaten across the Middle East and Southeast Asia, yet most South African goats never make it past the backyard. He wants to change that. He says fewer than 1 in 200 goats slaughtered in South Africa go through official abattoirs. Most are sold locally and informally. So, his advice to young farmers is simple. Know what you love, go after it early, and do not let anyone tell you that farming is a pursuit reserved for the elderly. There you go. Well, farming is not for the elderly. That's a tough job. A U.S. doctor has come in contact with an Ebola patient and moved from Uganda to a Czech hospital. U.S. doctor is being transferred from Uganda to a hospital in Prague. And those are not Ebola viruses. I don't know what that picture is supposed to be. Ebola is a filovirus, and those are not filovirus strands. I don't know what that's supposed to be. It's a stock photo. He has no symptoms of the virus and will be hospitalized as precaution following a request from the United States. Uganda grants an operating license to Elon Musk's Starlink. Wow. Starlink. Uganda has Starlink. Botswana has Starlink. Eswatini has Starlink. Mozambique has Starlink. Zimbabwe has Starlink. South Africa doesn't have Starlink because it has racist laws. Uganda has granted a license to Elon Musk's satellite internet firm Starlink to operate in the country, according to President Yoweri Museveni. Museveni said he presided over the signing of an operational license agreement between the Uganda Communications Commission and Starlink, marking an important step towards the commencement of their operations in Uganda. I'm pleased that Starlink has agreed to comply with Uganda's laws and regulatory requirements as it prepares to begin service delivery in the country. But not in South Africa. Not in South Africa. Shame. South Africans have to go without high-speed rural internet access because of the corrupt, decrepit telecoms industry and the racist laws. 4 people killed as a Kenyan fuel protest sparks nationwide strike. That transport strike leaves commuters stranded amid soaring fuel prices, so people resorted to murdering each other. Wow. The Transport Sector Alliance said Sunday that vehicles affiliated with its member associations would stop operating from midnight in protest while police said they would act to tackle any disruptions. We lost 4 Kenyans in violence today, which also saw more than 30 people interested. Interior Minister Kipchumba Murkomen told a press conference. Kenya's Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority last week raised retail prices by as much as 23.5% after hiking them by 24% last month as the conflict squeezed global oil and gas price supplies. But the problem is that that's a 47% increase in the price of fuel. But a barrel of petroleum, which is where fuel comes from, has risen from $79 to just $111. That's not a 47% increase. Somebody is gouging somebody. More instability in Somalia, shocker, not, as another election deadline lapses. Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed denied the end of his term on May 15th. The opposition announced it no longer recognized his legitimacy and warned that Somalia had entered a dangerous phase. He insisted that constitutional amendments approved by Parliament had extended his term from 4 to 5 years. Well, that is not going to fly. Guy doesn't want to leave office. The United States has issued fresh travel restrictions for 3 African countries: DRC, South Sudan, and Uganda because of Ebola. Non-U.S. passport holders who have recently visited these countries will undergo additional screening before entering the U.S. Well, at least we're taking proper measures. Dion Seeley, thank you for your membership. Long term. Iran is warning the United States and the world that it will spread the conflict further. And how would they do that? Most likely through proxy terrorists. Iran has warned the Middle East war could spread far beyond the region if the United States and Israel resume their attacks. President Trump has given Iran 2 to 3 days to reach a deal. Clock is ticking. Central Command says that 89 ships have been rerouted under the naval blockade. U.S. forces said they're continuing to enforce a naval blockade against Iran as Tehran demands sanctions relief and an end to military pressure in ongoing relations. Central Command on X said that U.S. forces have redirected 89 commercial vessels as part of an ongoing naval blockade. And thank you, Heidi Kruger, for your membership. Cyber attack on South Africa? No, I've saw nothing reporting on that. U.S. imposes sanctions on the Gaza flotilla, which we talked about a short while ago with the former South African ambassador. Nearly all flotillas over 20 years have been intercepted by Israel, and hundreds remain missing after the latest interdiction, according to Al Jazeera. The United States has imposed sanctions on 4 activists involved in the flotilla missions. Sanctions were announced yesterday after at least 430 activists were abducted during Israeli interceptions of aid ships headed towards Gaza. Washington accused flotilla organizers without publicly providing evidence of trying to reach the Palestinian territory in support of Hamas. Well, they have no obligation to show that evidence. They can sanction whoever they want, and that's just tough noogies. These people are involved with terrorists, and it doesn't have to be proved. What is going on here? So, the head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, because there was no other candidate to take over this corrupt organization, defends the World Health Organization's response to Ebola, saying that people have a lack of understanding about how the agency works. I know how it works. You lie about COVID and you destroy the world. I know, Dr. Tedros. You fail to issue proper advice for COVID and you destroy the world. We know how it works. His comments came after the French press agency quoted U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying on Tuesday that WHO, from which U.S. formally withdrew in January, had been late to identify the Ebola outbreak. The New York Times has not confirmed that Mr. Rubio made the remarks. Asked about Rubio's reported comments, Dr. Tedros said they may have reflected a lack of understanding of how the WHO functions. We don't replace the country's work, we only support them. Well, then why did you do what you did during the COVID scam? The World Health Organization says 600 suspected cases, 139 deaths in the growing Ebola outbreak, which has now spread beyond the DRC, having appeared in Kampala. Health authorities say the outbreak is being fueled by the Bundibugyo strain, a type of Ebola virus for which no vaccine or treatment exists. Well, most versions of Ebola have no treatment. A French presidential candidate, Philippe, under investigation for embezzlement. Allegations involve the allocation of a digital hub contract in Le Havre, where he is currently mayor, to a newly created association presided by one of his deputies. French investigators are probing allegations of embezzlement involving high-profile presidential candidate Edouard Philippe over the allocation of a digital hub contract. The 55-year-old centrist and ex-prime minister, seen as one of the strongest contenders in next year's election to replace Emmanuel Macron, denies the accusations. Well, he can deny them, but they're looking at him. The White House has confirmed that Donald Trump, unlike Cyril Ramaphosa, will be attending the G7 summit in France. The event takes place in Evian, the site of the famous water bottling company, from the 15th to 17th of June. France has changed the dates to accommodate President Trump's schedule. Well, merci mille fois, la République de la France. Je suis très heureux que vous êtes d'abord avec nous pour changement des dates. La conférence à Evian. Merci mille fois. Thank you for changing the dates. We appreciate that. It's very flexible. The U.S. Senate has advanced measures to withdraw the United States' involvement in the Iran conflict. Senator Bill Cassidy joined 3 Republican colleagues in backing the resolution, casting a decisive vote. Lawmakers approved resolution 50 to 47. Cassidy previously voted against similar measures introduced several times to deliver the decisive margin. 3 other Republicans, Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski, also voted for the resolution. John Fetterman voted against it. 3 Republicans were absent: John Cornyn, Tom Tillis, and Tommy Tuberville. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reacted immediately. Republicans are starting to crack, and momentum is building to check him. We are not letting up. No one's cracking. Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski are all traitors to the Republic. They always have been. There's no difference there. John Cornyn is a traitor, and Tom Tillis and Tommy Tuberville were absent. Why weren't they there? Shameful. So this will now go to the House of Representatives to see if, in fact, they will try to invoke the Unconstitutional War Powers Act to restrict the executive branch from executing defense for this nation. This will be a dark day if such an idiotic resolution is passed. President Trump's endorsement machine steamrolls Republican dissent. He vanquished turncoat, treasonous Thomas Massie. President Trump delivered a clear message to Republicans Tuesday's primaries across the president at your own peril. His powerful primary endorsements had left behind a battered trail of fellow Republicans judged disloyal. Maverick Indiana Legislature Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and now Thomas Massie of Kentucky are all gone. Trump's triumph in Tuesday Kentucky congressional primary, which saw Republicans reject Massie in favor of Trump-backed challenger Ed Gowron, served as latest reminder of the president's enduring grip on his Make America Great Again base. Yep. Thomas Massie decided he was so mad at Donald Trump and Mike Johnson that he would vote against them out of spite. Let this be a warning to anyone who has that impulse. Massie defeated in GOP primary after attacks from Trump. Kentucky lawmaker, he crossed president on tax bill and Epstein files. Yep, so he's gone now. He's gone. Yep, Massie is gone. Good riddance, another treasonous bastard. And here are the results from that Republican primary in Kentucky. Representative Thomas Massie faced the most difficult re-election battle of his career. Most outspoken Republican critic of Trump, backed his challenge, who backed Ed Gowron, a former Navy SEAL. Became the most expensive congressional primary on record with $31 million spent on this race. Absolutely ridiculous. And not only did Massie win, but he got slumped. He lost by 10,000 plus votes, and that's a 10% margin, 55 to 45. You can see that Massie barely held any support just in his home county area. and Melissa Claire Strange won the Democratic primary, but that doesn't mean anything. She's not going anywhere. 41,000 votes. Yeah, Massey is gone, and Galvin will be in the Congress. In Georgia, the turncoat treasonous bastard Brad Raffensperger has been defeated decisively. Burt Jones came in first in the Republican primary, followed by Rick Jackson and Raffensperger. Brad Raffensperger, the scumbag who was part of the so-called infamous phone call with Trump when Trump asked about what's going on with the votes and he refused to do his job. Well, Raffensperger has been defeated decisively, receiving just 15% of the vote in Georgia. His career over. Good riddance. Burt Jones and Rick Jackson will move on to a June runoff to determine who will be the Republican candidate for governor. But it won't be Brad Raffensperger. Brad Raffensperger, another traitor to the nation and to Trump, is gone. Congratulations. Trump topples terrible Massey. He vowed retribution against non-Republicans, but years of battles over spending. Jeffrey Epstein files the United States support for Israel. More led the president to take Massey's primary, particularly personally. Yep. He said, Thomas Massey's a terrible congressman. He's been a terrible congressman from day one. Dealing with him is just horrible. I don't think he's a Republican. I think he's actually a Democrat. He normally won that district by 30 points, and he lost by 10. It's a 40% swing. And Trump lifted Barr to nomination for McConnell's seat. So now Davis Barr, or Andy Barr and his wife Davis, Andy Barr will be running for the seat for Mitch McConnell, the decrepit senile fossil who will be leaving the Senate. Trump also backs Ken Paxton from Texas to replace the turncoat treasonous John Cornyn. President Trump endorsed Ken Paxton, Texas Attorney General for Senate, embracing a MAGA ally over Senator John Cornyn in the final days before their key primaries. So next will be Cornyn, who will disappear. The IRS has dropped audits of Trump and his family. As part of the Justice Department's deal, officials vowed not to pursue any matters, including those involving President Trump's tax returns that are pending. Yep. Grant his family and his businesses immunity from ongoing inquiries. As part of the $1.8 billion fund aimed at benefiting those who were abused by the criminal Biden regime, who violated the Constitution. I want my payout. A community is grieving in San Diego for 3 men considered to be heroes killed defending the San Diego Mosque. 3 people killed by 2 teen shooters at San Diego Mosque were beloved pillars of the community and died while saving 140 children who were in the building at the time of the attack. All 3 men were shot while trying to delay and distract the 2 gunmen who barged into the Islamic Center of San Diego. Imam of the Islamic Center of San Diego, Taha Hassan, identified the 3 victims as Amin Abdullah, 51, Nadar Adwad, 57, and Mansour Kazeha, 78, who is known as Abu Ez. Authorities describe how the shooting unfolded based on security camera footage at the mosque, which is the largest in San Diego and attracts thousands of people from across the region during major holidays. When the 2 shooters, aged 17 and 18, entered, they passed Abdullah seemingly without notice. Abdullah, who was a security guard for the mosque for about a decade, quickly confronted them and exchanged gunfire. At the same time, he grabbed his radio and warned everyone to go into lockdown. As the shooters made their way into the lobby, they wounded him as he kept firing, forcing them back outside to the parking lot. There, he was fatally shot. This man chased these people back into the street and paid with his life. The shooters went back inside and searched the rooms that were empty during the lockdown. They then went back out to the parking lot where Kazewa and Awad confronted them. Kazewa was able to call 911 before both men were fatally shot. Some real heroes there. Yeah. Minnesota has become the first state to ban prediction markets. Of course, these fascists will try to control every aspect of human life. 14 other states have wrestled with how to regulate the popular prediction market. Federal officials have sued the state over the new law. A day after Timmy Waltz, little tampon Timmy, signed into law the first state law explicitly barring prediction markets, the Trump administration sued the state on Tuesday, seeking to block it from going into effect this summer. So, prediction markets, which are perfectly normal human interaction, are now a felony in the great socialist republic of Minnesota. Under the law, a person who creates, operates, or advertises a prediction market that allows users to place bets on future events could be charged with a felony punishable up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. But the people who bet on the sites won't be subject to the penalty. Fascists, trying to control every aspect of life. Well, the Air Force has launched a test flight of the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, long overdue. The unarmed missile from Southern California base landed in the Pacific Ocean. Oh, rubbish makers. Put your trash out at sea. The launch from Vandenberg now it's Space Force Base, in the Pacific had previously been scheduled and was not in response to any world events. Our ability to conduct these rigorous, realistic tests is foundational to our national security, said General S.L. Davis, commander of the Air Force Global Strike Command. Wednesday's intercontinental ballistic missile launch comes amid a 3-day Russian nuclear military exercise that started Tuesday and continues to Thursday, involving hundreds of missile launchers, combat aircraft. The Minuteman III remains the backbone of land-based leg of the U.S. nuclear triad, but it is ancient by military standards. The 400 missiles kept on alert status in Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota were deployed in 1970 with an original lifespan of just 10 years. And they're still there. How about the Minuteman IV? Long overdue. Trump's special envoy to Greenland got a cold welcome from the folks in Nuuk. Yep. Governor Greg Landry should have gone as the viceroy. President Trump's special envoy to Greenland, Governor Greg Landry, came to the island on a self-proclaimed goodwill mission. So far, he's not found many people who want to be his friend. Within hours of landing, Greenland's capital, Mr. Landry was touring the town in a cold drizzle when one Greenlander gave his entourage the finger. When he offered some MAGA hats to Greenlander children, several shook their heads. He even told some kids that came to his mansion in Louisiana they could all have chocolate chip cookies, all you can eat. The next day, Jens Frederik Nielsen, Greenland's prime minister, expressed his discomfort with the whole thing. We have our red lines, and no matter how many chocolate cookies we get, we are not going to change them. When asked about it, Landry said there's only one line. It's red, white, and blue. His high-profile visit, the first since being appointed in December as Trump's point man in Greenland, comes in an exceedingly awkward time. Confidential negotiations over Greenland's future have been unfolding in Washington, and officials have told New York Times that Greenlanders are weary of the direction in which the talks are headed. The United States is insisting on a much bigger role in Greenland, perhaps not as drastic as seizing the island, but with major oversight of the country's economic security affairs. Well, Greenlanders are not happy. A flurry of suspicious oil trades worth $800 million is triggering a regulatory probe. Moments before Trump postponed strikes on Tehran's energy infrastructure, in a social media post on March 23rd, a spasm of trades hit the market during the off hours. More than $800 million worth of U.S. international oil futures changed hands in a matter of minutes. Traders on the right side of those well-timed bets profited when U.S. oil prices fell by 13% in the wake of Trump's change of heart. Yeah, interesting. Corruption. The IRS will drop the audits of the Trump family, as I mentioned earlier. Prison to pardons to payouts. January 6 rioters are related to Trump's $1.8 billion fund. But it's not just for people who were at the building, who walked into the building. It's also for people who've been abused by the Trump or by the Biden regime. Anthony Vo, who was a friend, well, they're describing the shooters as neo-Nazis. I've seen people say that they're trans, but I've seen no evidence of that because the media is not reporting on that. Mr. Vo briefly fled the country to avoid his prison sentence stemming from the riot, said he did not know at first that the fund had come about as part of a larger deal by President Trump. I'm glad it turned into something that could help people who've been hurting for quite a while now. So many questions, said Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the far-right Proud Boys, was sentenced 22 years in prison on seditious conspiracy conviction arising from riot, but it's a good direction. The formal decision on whether to offer restitution to the rioters has been kicking around the Justice Department for months, delayed by internal wrangling. But in some sense, it had appeared inevitable the Trump administration would ultimately funnel money to those who joined the mob. Join the mob. Give me a break. The United States Department of Justice acknowledging the possibility Americans were targeted through political abuse of government power, says Tommy Tate, a Mississippi man who was charged for a civil disorder. And he's right. It was a political prosecution for misdemeanor offenses. A asteroid came dangerously close to the Earth on Monday. Astronomers didn't even know about it until a week before it came. Newly discovered asteroid, estimated to be about 62 feet wide, passed near the Earth on Monday, just 57,000 miles from the planet. Known as 2026 JH2, the moon, by contrast, is 238,855 miles away, over 4 times as far away as this was. This thing came close. Caitlin Clark broke another record in her young career, and it's not even close to the record she broke. She's so far ahead of everyone that came before her, yet they continue to harass. Where'd my story go? What the hell happened to the story there? It's gone. The story disappeared? What happened there? I read the story. Now it's gone. That's weird. All right, let me open another tab. This one's not working. That is weird. There it is. Got it now. Wow. Very strange. All right, here we go. Caitlin Clark's story. That was weird. So, she's grown used to breaking WNBA records in her young career, and she did that once again over the weekend when she set the record for the most career games with 20-plus points and 10-plus assists with 11. She broke that record in a weird way on Sunday as they made a statistical correction to her numbers from Friday's loss when she had a triple-double. On Sunday night, she added to her record against the Storm. So, she has games with 20 points and 10 assists. She has 12. Courtney Vandersloot has 10, and Diana Taurasi, WNBA legend, has 9. It took Caitlin 57 games to accomplish this. Remember, she was injured for many of those games. And Courtney Vandersloot, it took 436 games to get to 10. It took Diana Taurasi 565 to reach 9 games with a double-double. She did it in 57 and has 12 already. This is Caitlin Clark is just amazing. Yeah, and they keep falsely attributing turnovers to her that her teammates are doing. Well, he had a unique ability to be human. Late night TV says goodbye, and I say good riddance to Stephen Ashat Colbert. Yes, he came on to The Late Show and ruined late night television. There he is, Stephen Dingbat Colbert. Late Show and its much-loved host, by leftist retards, will bid farewell this week after controversial cancellation leading behind a challenging TV landscape. It's not controversial. The show's boring. Hugh Jackman sang a parody of Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline. I'll never watch Hugh Jackman again. Bette Midler, who I don't watch anyway, performed a satirical rewrite of Wind Beneath My Wings. John Lithgow, who I'll never watch again, wrote and recited a poem entitled The Mighty Colbert. And Jake Tapper, he's an idiot, hand-delivered a painting of Colbert as Gollum from The Lord of the Rings. Jimmy Fallon, another retard, offered a pointed take on Frank Sinatra's My Way. A roll call celebrities have made pilgrims to the Ed Sullivan Theater in recent months to join a long goodbye to CBS's boring Stephen Colbert, honoring a voice that will sorely missed by national conversation when the lights go out dark on May 21st. The 60-year-old has provided a nightly anecdote for millions of viewers feeling discombobulated at the end of another day of Donald Trump's dystopia. Yeah. Bye-bye. Stephen Colbert, you are adjudged to be an idiot. Good riddance. You will not be missed. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the news for today, the 20th of May, 2026. Thank you for being here. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't done it. All right? Oh, they're very jealous of her. They hate her because she's a heterosexual, she's white, and she's the best player to ever enter the WNBA. They physically assault her on the court. They don't call fouls when she's knocked to the floor. They falsely attribute turnovers to her. The whole thing is a scam. The WNBA is a dumb, racist organization that can't see that the only reason we watch the WNBA is because of Caitlin Clark. But because of Caitlin Clark, I get to watch Aaliyah Boston. I get to watch Kelsey Mitchell. I get to watch Sophie Cunningham. Well, who wouldn't watch her? And Lexi Hull. Only because of Caitlin Clark. Otherwise, I wouldn't be watching it. Sorry, Corey, I played the song at the beginning of the program. Well, Safadal, again, stop looking at the portal. It doesn't mean anything. It's none of your business. I don't know why they even give you access to it. It's stupid. That's for internal purposes. So don't worry about it. Just don't even focus on it. Jimmy, another retard. Yep. Colbert has been going a few shows saying his show might have drifted too far left over the years. You think? Yes, Heidi. Caitlin Clark is amazing. In fact, is she playing tonight? I think she's playing tonight. WNBA. I mean, tonight my Vegas Golden Knights are on. I care more about that. But tonight, why does it always go back? This thing never gives you the current schedule. Come on. 18, today's the night, 20th. Yeah, they play tonight at 7 o'clock. And does it tell me what TV it's on? Is it even on TV? So, some of these WNBA games aren't even on TV. It's on USA at 7 o'clock. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm on the radio, so I don't know how I'm going to watch that. But Caitlin Clark plays tonight. Yep. Yep, so she plays tonight. WNBA. She's a hell of an athlete. Yep, incredible. Thank you, Adelia, for the 200 Rand super chat. I'll catch it in a second. I didn't see it. 20% tax on gambling. Yeah, and more theft. 80 million profit, 15 million. Yeah, they were pretty smart, Future Looks Bright, or pretty clued in to something they shouldn't have had access to. Insider trading. Shooters in the last story. Yeah, I don't know, Light Rain. I can't find any confirmation, but they do this all the time. It only comes out months later. We still don't have the manifesto of the trans shooter in that shooting in Kentucky or Tennessee, whenever that was, Tennessee. That retard that went in the building and shot all those people. Happy Chappy, have a good day. American politics is 10 times more complicated than Southern politics. No, you are missing something, Carl. 7,000 new buddies in the USA. We must set up a Starlink supply line. Bitter end is because I started 11:30 because it's Wednesdays. I trim my beard? No, I've trimmed it like 2 weeks ago. I haven't trimmed it since then. Wise man once said, only blind people find every obstacle surprising. Do I think President Trump is waiting crucial intelligence to make more effective strike for his reason for delay? No, I don't think that's what he's waiting on. I think he really doesn't want to fight them. He doesn't want to have a war. Yeah, what's the cyber attack that you're talking about there, Heidi? We want Starlink. Yep. And space is not the property of South Africa. Exactly. The world news being as is, do you guys think we'll get out of here before the Lord Jesus comes back? Well, every day people are leaving Delia, so yeah, I think people will get out of there. Dion Sealy, thank you for your membership. 18 Starlink sites coming over Bolito a month. I thought to myself, what a waste of space time. Okay. My uncle has some boar goats. These things look like a pit bulls on steroids. Bye, Eric. Have a good day. Admiral spends millions in his own vanity parade, and then the Sandef need more money. Yep. Yeah, I covered that story too. Two things are endless in this world: human stupidity and space. Yep. Uganda's flying people out, what, out of South Africa over xenophobia? I didn't know that. Thank you for that. All right, cool. We're caught up. Veroshka, how's it going? Daddy sarcastic? It's denial of service attack. Oh, there we go. Denial of service attack. Okay, I didn't see that, Daddy sarcastic. You should help those who are stuck in South Africa. Too much help goes to others. Is that a message for me? I should help people stuck in South Africa. In what way? And how do you know I'm not helping people stuck in South Africa? What are you talking about? Are you talking to me? You talking to me? The gambling industry, casinos fought the 20% saying it's 1,000 jobs lost. Thankfully, I'm not in gambling. Yep. You're welcome for the news, Sharon. Okay. All right. So the song that I recorded last night, Trump opened the door. The ANC is likely to do something stupid. They're not very bright in response to the cap. They'll lie about it again. Here we go. Trump on the door.
Down in Pretoria, they were picking another fight, throwing stones at Washington on the evening news each night. They mocked the orange man from podiums and floors. Didn't know they'd push him till he opened up the door. Now there's suitcases lined up from Durban to the Cape. Families making plans that they swore they'd never make. 10,000 more leaving, saying we can't do this anymore. Funny how the backlash came when Trump opened the door. Trump opened the door, swung that old barn wide. Now the planes keep lifting off on another midnight ride. Human capital's fleeing, tax base receding, the GNU's bleeding right down to the core. What's so whiskey settle in a store, while the whole damn country's changing, 'cause Trump opened the door. They sold the rainbow dream like salvation on TV, but too many graves were dug beside the poverty. Gangsters run the corners, corruption fills the halls, and state neglect keeps echoing through abandoned factory walls. Cyril says, don't worry now, tomorrow's looking bright, but candles still replace the power nearly every night. No white men in management, they brag from marble floors, but black poverty ain't shrinking like they promised years before. Trump opened the door, swung that old barn wide. Now the farmers and the teachers all got one foot outside. Human capital's fleeing, tax base receding, the GNU's bleeding right down to the core. What's Solomola gonna tell the people next? Can Cyril blame Afrikaners for another train wreck? And Fikele keeps counting ghosts nobody's looking for, while the future packs its bags, 'cause Trump opened the door. How much can the gangsters in Parliament steal? How many fake fortunes dressed up as the real? How many young people gotta lose all hope before the whole damn nation runs clean out of rope? Mama says the country used to feel alive, now every goodbye cuts like a knife. One more family headed somewhere north, one more flag folded up on the porch. Trump opened the door, and the flood came through, for the tired and forgotten who just needed something new. South Africans fleeing, the ANC reeling, things going from bad to worse way down south. The Rainbow Nation promise faded into pain, too many mothers crying in the pouring rain. What comes next? Lord, nobody's sure, but history took a hard left turn the day Trump opened the door. Yeah, history took a hard left turn the day Trump opened the door.
Yeah, Trump opened the door. That's the song we came up with last night. Talk about what was going on there. So Trump opened the door. Hope you enjoyed that one. Sama Samet, no, I haven't seen his content. Isaac Duplessis, Newspod, give me a nice shout out. Well, thank you, Isaac. Appreciate that. What was it about, Future Looks Bright? Why did he say that? I missed him. That was last night. I didn't have time to look at anything. I was busy working all day. When I asked what will happen to those who are left behind and cannot get out, endless persecution, bloodbath. Well, what do you mean left behind? Urgent attention. Okay, well, not really sure what to do about that. The message has arrived. Another Irishman. Yeah. Yeah, okay, well. Well, it doesn't seem urgent. How exactly did this person get a hold of you? That's what I'm interested in. I would ask them how they got a hold of you. I mean, how do they come across your email? That'd be my first question. And the publication you want to write for is not an honest publication. So, yeah. Oh, sharing my video in 10,000. Thanks, Future Looks Bright. Thank you for sharing that. About 10,000, giving you credit and such people follow your channel. Well, that's great. I wish people would, but it really hasn't resulted in my coming over. I think we've already saturated that. In fact, I just lost a subscriber while the show's on. Yeah, I would ask him how he came across your email address. Because he's making an assumption that it's you. Yep, that's what I would ask him. So let's see what some of the stuff he's come up with here. Unauthorized wellness checks by police Ohio schools. Republicans split with Trump, back Haitians and save their seats. No, we're not supporting Haitians. Trouble Lake area is being transformed to a vast water research facility. Midwest bottleneck. Midwest pays high price for Trump's Iran war as soldiers die. Well, this is all anti-Trump stuff. Demand for hydropower surges as Trump clamps down on clean energy. That's not true. That's not true. Caustic plant will keep steel plant J.D. Vance's hometown running. Trump's around. This is all anti-Trump stuff. Everything here is anti-Trump. Yep. You gotta click on the link to see his articles. Everything's anti-Trump. Why is an Irishman writing on Ohio? He's welcome to do it. I'm just curious why. Super chat. Let me go back to the super chat. Approved November 23rd, travel ready, November 24th. Okay, no progress since then. How can you decide who escapes U.S. grand entry, though? Why prosecutor finish this? We're broken. Help. Well, I don't know what the situation with it is. One of the viewers said that the agreement, and I remember something along those lines, but I didn't see details on it. There was an agreement in the press, but it was never publicly announced, other than the press claiming it, that the U.S. would not take refugees out who had open cases against them. I can't verify that. I'm trying to research it now, but again, I've been gone for the last day, and this day is gone as well. I mean, this, then Ronaldo. After Ronaldo, then I've got to go counsel, not counsel, but give performance counseling to manager, then place flags at Veterans Cemetery, and then come back and do my radio show. So this day is gone too. Thank you, Delia, for the 200 Rand super chat. Thank you for reminding me about her super chat. I forgot about it there. Got distracted. Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I've got to research it more. Well, I only read a couple words in it. He says, I'm John Kennedy. I have the ability to keep my mouth shut, but no, I have the right to remain silent, but I don't have the ability. It's pretty funny. Yeah, Sylvie Cunningham, she's a lion out there. She's a lioness. She's awesome. Is Minry here? Hey, Minry. Someone said hello to Minry. Vanner Bikes, we're just waiting for our daughter's passport. Okay. Hey, sunny Wisconsin. Is it hot there? It's hot here. Oof. Rain is coming, though, in a few hours. McDonald's has some major changes. What happened to McDonald's? Prices are too high, I'll tell you that much. Sales decline. Okay. Expanding a permanent lineup of drinks with new categories. Okay. Okay. Mango, pineapple refresher, popping boba, strawberry watermelon refresher. Ugh. You're going to get AI at the McDonald's drive-thru. I don't like that. The people already screwed up. Doubling down on chicken. McDonald's is selling more of the hand-breaded McCrispy strips and overhauling its apps reward and value menu. Okay. It's the country's third biggest chain is planning on getting bigger. For a while, it seemed like McDonald's maxed out its market saturation in the United States, but the company doesn't think so. The burger purveyor currently sits in third place for the largest quick-serve restaurant chains in the U.S. in terms of number of locations at 13,800. Is that all? Slightly fewer than it had a decade ago when it had over 14,000. McDonald's has started expanding again with 159 locations this year and his plans for 26 to 27. McDonald's CEO Chris Kempinski revealed the company aims to open 8,000 locations worldwide to bring their total to 50,000. Well, we'll see. Oh, cutting prices again. What's this? To $3 and under. Okay. Amid persistent economic concerns, McDonald's is making a bold move to attract budget-conscious diners with a brand new under $3 menu and new $4 breakfast meals. Well, we'll see. 8 new wild menu items. Let's see what they came up with. McRib, okay. The Laksa Delight Burger. There's an egg on it. Chicken topped with a richer laksa sauce, a fried egg, cucumber. No. The Hokkaido melon cream soda. Ugh. Spicy McCrispy. Yeah, that's been there, so that's not new. And then McDonald's Australia delighted customers by bringing back the double Big Mac for those with substantial appetites. And in 2023, Germany's McDonald's surprised customers with the debut of chili cheese fries. And the McDonald's can unveil the Stoop Waffle McFlurry. Okay. Anyway, enough of that nonsense, McDonald's. You know, people keep complaining about not getting out, but every day, people who've been waiting longer than people complaining, all the way back to February of last year, and 100 finding their way out finally. I've met my friend and his wife, plus another family that were, and a couple other families were part of that 100. Finally came over recently. Erie is tiny. Lake Erie is not my favorite. Lake Superior is my favorite. All right, guys. Ronaldo's on 6 minutes. We are so grateful. The U.S. government and President Trump. 10,000 relocation refugees aren't achieved. Does that carry over to next year? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's for this fiscal year. So they'll set another target in August or September. Yep, it doesn't carry over. Nope. It doesn't carry over. All right, so I'm also going to politely tell people now. People's constant, and there's several people constantly complaining about the refugee program. People don't want to hear that. I'm going to ask you politely to stop it. And then in future, I'm just going to start removing people's comments and then eventually giving timeouts. And people don't get the hint, I'm going to remove them. This is not a cafe clutch. You want to complain, you know, all you're doing is depressing other people. Lots of people doing that in the chat. I'd ask people respectfully to stop that. All right? It's very inconsiderate. It's very distracting. So, cool beans. All right? Cool beans. All right. So, yeah. What's up next? Well, I've got lots of stuff from Memorial Day. Then we have to see what goes on in June, July, and August. See what happens in June, July, and August. All right? Program is privileged, not... Okay. Yeah, so we'll be with Ronaldo here in just a few minutes. Okay? So let me go ahead and drop off. You'll be automatically redirected there. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done already. I would appreciate that. Yeah, keep it. Should I play one more song? Do you guys want to hear one more song before we go? We'll play one more song. How's that? Everybody up for one more song? If you're not, just tell me. We don't have to play one more song. But we can play one more song. How about Doba and Popo? We'll do that one, okay? Let's do that.
Dobber in die potholes. Johannesburgse straat het vanaand golwe. Gryp jou sweeftuig, ou styf vas. Plons, plons, stamp en swaai.
Plons, plons.
Nog 'n as is oorlede. Arme ou Helens, hulle het met 'n glimlag getuimel. En 'n slag het geval wat diep genoeg is om binne te swem. Kameras flits oral, sy het gewaai net soos 'n koningin. Rugslag in die pad gedoen, asof dit 'n oortoneel is. Die deur is heeltemal gekraak en verkrummel, die baanlyne het verdwyn. Jy het 'n bergreddingsspan nodig, wat net 'n rad oorskakel. Daar is taksies wat sinkheid ontwyk, soos 'n slalom afdraande wedren. En elke reënerige middag word 'n waterpark skande. Straatligte flikker, robotte dood, duisternis dans oor hoofse. Oor die kraag op wekkers gons, nog 'n kragonderbreking het tyd uiteindelik gekom. Ons dobber in die slaggat te plons deur die pyn. Probeer om nie en nog 'n somerreën te hidroplaneer nie. Dobber in die slaggat te lag net om te hanteer. Sing deur die chaos terwyl ons aan 'n tou hang. Kan enigiemand die roep hoor? Voordat die hele ding begin ineenstort. Die treine ry nie volgens skedule nie, want die kabels is almal gekraak. Hospitaalplafonne lek terwyl die waglyne dik word. Elektrisiteit is 'n gerug wat 'n uur per dag verskyn, dan verdwyn soos touwerkrag wanneer die rekeninge betaal moet word. Intussen drink politici skemerkokkies by die see. Konvooie vlieg verby die skades wat nie die fooi kan bekostig nie. Die mense jaag eindeloos vir brood en gemoedsrus, terwyl beloftes van die parlement nog moeiliker word om te vind. Raadsale, hoeke, parlement, skelms en blink klere. Safers wat stil maal, wonder hoe dit gebeur het. Ons dobber in die slaggat te dryf deur die vloed. Probeer ons vaardigheid boer die stygende modderhou. Dobber in die slaggatte, alle klere langs mekaar. Swart en wit en bruin, saam op hierdie hobbelige rit. Almal voel spanning, dan skaalvoet in die reën. Die gangsters dra ontwerperspakke, of kruip weg agter amptelakke stewels. Sommige dra gewere, sommige dra stemme. Sommige glimlag net en maak al kele skoon. 32 lang jare verby, vra die mense steeds hoekom. Vryheid moet nie verval beteken nie, of skraap net om elke dag te leef. MKC, emancipasie, mense roep, red dan die nasie. Vryheid van die eindelose gierigheid, vryheid beteken die mense lei. Ons dobber in die slaggatte, maar ons het nog nie verdrink nie. Het steeds ritme, het steeds vuur, het steeds onbetaalde skuld. Dobber in die slaggatte, sim hard en duidelik. Miskien as ons genoeg skree, gaan iemand hoor. Johannesburg verander, swembadens en strate. Dans op ineenstortende ritmes. Ons gaan steeds op een of ander manier voort. Suid-Afrika, ons het jou nou nodig. Plats, stamp, nog 'n band wat loskom, maar die musiek bly aanrol.
Alrighty, dope end the potholes. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. That's going to do it for today. See you on Ronaldo in just a moment. Thanks. Be sure to hit the like button, folks.